voter registration. As Jamie had said, I'm here for two purposes, both one having to, I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
HAVA.
Sorry about that. To request approval of the HAVA paperwork, which is basically showing that we have expenditured in 2019 the amount that we were required to do. And I provided that paperwork to Jamie that just needed to be signed by Sally. I did give you that ahead of time. Then the chairman, which would be you, Commissioner Phillips, and then I believe it's one other commissioner, and then Jamie, you'll need to sign it.
Right.
So requesting approval for that to be.
Okay.
And the amount that we had to spend was $181,680?
Yes.
And we've exceeded that.
Yes.
Almost
Yes.
double.
Keeping in mind that was from, the HAVA was from the early 2000s, so obviously inflation jumps there, but yep, easily made that amount.
I make a motion to approve the HAVA certification.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions regarding the motion? Yes.
I don't know what HAVA stands for.
Help America Vote Act.
Help America Vote Act. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Not all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So moved. Thank you. Next, we'll have to adjourn our meeting here and
You're just recessing.
recess.
Yep.
To adjourn.
I would like to call the Board of Elections to order for approval of the political parties.
Okay, requesting, I had to give you paperwork concerning the political parties for 2020 and to certify the Democratic and Republican parties as the major parties here in Lebanon County. And I provided that paperwork for you to sign and requesting approval for those political parties.
Move it.
Okay, I'll have a second.
I'll second the motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the Republican and Democratic parties as the two parties of recognition here in the county. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So ordered. Anything else?
We have a question.
I have a question.
Oh.
Michael, while you're here, could you please clarify? I've read this a couple of times and I need some just succinct words on the applications for the mail-in versus the absentee ballots.
Okay, the difference between the two?
Well, specifically, what is the latest date they can apply for each of those? Is there a cutoff?
Yes. So the law says you can apply 50 days before any election. So for this election, that will be March 9th, so that, you know, we don't turn them away. If people apply now, we take them. The cutoff is still 1 week before the election, so that would be a week before, so it would be the 21st of April will be the cutoff for both mail-in applications and absentee ballot applications.
Okay.
It is a completely new form. So we have all of those here, and we're getting some printed. So yeah, so the deadline is the same as far as the application. What has changed is the deadline to return. That is now 8 o'clock on election night for both. So you now have a week. So a lot of times what was happening, and we would bring to the board, is the fact that we would have multiple ballots that were issued but not returned until the Monday before the election, and they could not be counted because the deadline used to be Friday at 5 o'clock. That has now changed. It's now up to 8 o'clock on election night.
So the 15-day deadline is just to register to vote?
That is to register to vote, yes.
Okay.
So part of what I will be doing with Act 77 is giving the board my recommendations on how we should handle the changes. And so I will be getting that to you very soon. Because some of the things that need to be discussed are how we're going to handle absentee ballots and mail-in ballots, because we cannot canvass or open them until 8 o'clock on election night, which is going to be an issue. So that's all coming. So how we're going to handle the registration deadline, how we're going to be handling the new, basically the fact that we now have no excuse voting. Anybody that wants to vote by mail, vote at home as they call it, they'll be able to do that. We anticipate, I was telling Jamie the other day, could be up to 10,000 ballots now that could come through just for the primary itself.
Well, part of the confusion that I only realized the other day when I stopped with you is that there's two applications. It's
Yes.
not one and the same.
Yes, and the reason why it is that way is because the Pennsylvania Constitution allows for absentee voting. And so to get the no excuse, so the mail-in voting through, they just added a layer on top of it without actually addressing the fact of the Constitution and having the absentee. So that requires us to have two separate forms, two separate applications. It really is going to be a lot to deal with. We're hoping at some point the General Assembly will go back and address that and move that all to one. But to be honest, what they did is they pushed it through to get it in for the 2020 presidential cycle, and they didn't take the time to really do it the correct way, which
Well,
is
thank
have
you
two
for the
separate-
clarity on that, because I just didn't understand the need for the two different forms.
Absentee is protected through the Pennsylvania Constitution.
Okay, very good.
And Michael, since this is somewhat new to, and I'm sure a lot of the public isn't clear on it, would you mind giving a kind of a layperson's example of no excuse absentee ballot?
Sure. So we call it mail-in ballot application, and basically it'll be anybody that wants to vote by mail will just have to request that. And so there's an application. They fill out the application process. They return that to us. We will mail them the ballot. The application is good for the whole election cycle. So if you determine that you want to vote by mail, you can have that for both the primary and for the general. There's also, anybody can do it. So there is still the absentee process though. So let's say you have a physical disability or you know you're going to be out of town, you can still request and fill out an application for an absentee ballot based on that criteria. We basically are going to be telling people if they're not sure which way they are, if they qualify for absentee, we're going to push them towards mail-in because you don't have to have any reason, and there won't be any type of objection to their request, because you don't have to have a reason. So there's just two different ones. When they call, we can help people navigate that, and obviously if they fill out an application for one or the other, we will send them the ballot. The ballot is going to be the same. What we have to do is we just have to mark it that it's either an absentee or a mail-in, and what we're going to do to save money is we're going to have one ballot that's going to basically say official ballot, and then we're going to stamp them. That way we don't have
Double
to
printing.
print a bunch that say absentee and a bunch that say mail-in and then have a bunch of waste. We're going to have one ballot, and then we're going to stamp them as they
Good
come
for you.
through.
And then my final question is, are both of these applications available on your page on our website?
Yes. So they're both on the website now, and there will be the online application that will also be available. My understanding is they probably won't open that until the 50-day requirement by law, but you still will be able to go online through Votes PA
At the state.
and do that, yes, through that process.
Thank you so much. That adds a lot of clarification.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go down.
Gordon?
And
Oh, I'm
Mary
sorry.
Louise both.
I'm sorry.
I have, I just have one. With the two applications, it sounds that you said you're pushing people toward the vote at home, vote over the mail. My question is, to get a plain old absentee ballot. I'm not going to be in the district, and all of a sudden, voila, I am in the district, but I vote via that absentee ballot anyway. Is it possible for someone to challenge my vote because of that?
It's always possible for someone to challenge. I would say, though, that the odds of that winning would probably be low because you don't know your plans are going to change. That's why, and I hate to use the word you said pushing. I would say we would encourage, or if someone's asking our opinion, we would tell them just to do the mail-in, because then there is not going to be an objection because you don't have to have a reason. So it's something for people, and it's one of the things I can tell you the election directors throughout the Commonwealth were worried about because of that exact circumstance, because part of Act 77, what changes is you no longer will have the option to go to your polling place to vote. If you vote by mail or you vote by absentee, that is your final vote. Our poll books will actually say you voted by mail, and so when you go to the polling place, you will not be given a regular ballot. If you show up, you would have to be given a provisional ballot. And then we would have to go back and check to make sure that we received it. If we received it, then your provisional ballot would, well, our recommendation to the board would be that it would be rejected.
And that process is repeated every election?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
very good, thank you.
Mhm.
Mary Louise?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted, so anybody who wants to vote by mail, they can come into the voter registration bureau for an application,
Yes.
or they can go online?
Yes, or request a paper application, yes. And so one of the things, we have actually always done this here in Lebanon County, but one of the items that is in Act 77 is that every county election office has to have a central place where an individual can come in and actually vote. Do their application, fill it out, and get their ballot, and actually vote that ballot. So we've actually always allowed that here, just because of mailing concerns. Now we're required to do it. And one of the also things that Act 77 allows is for more than just one central place to do it. So one of the things I'm going to recommend to the board is that we, at this point, have just our local location here at the municipal building, but the counties would have the option to be able to set up multiple locations throughout their county to actually do this process. It's costly, you're gonna have to fully staff it, have to have access to the system, the county actually has to purchase or lease the building, so there's all different things that are involved in that. But to answer your question, yes, everything can be done here at the 50 days. So basically, we're gonna set it up March 1st, March 2nd, whatever day of the week that is. We're gonna be prepared for people to be able to come into our office to do that whole process.
Okay, then I have another question, that maybe this is pretty much what Gordy asked, but suppose I come in here and get a ballot, and I'm doing that absentee or whatever, but then suppose I decide, well, you know, I think I'll go vote also at my polling place. How are they gonna know that I can't do that, that
Very
I've
good
already
question. So
done one?
the poll books will be marked. So what happens is when we process an application, it automatically in our system shows that they have requested an absentee ballot. So when we print our poll books, the poll books will actually show everybody that has been given an application, either absentee or mail-in.
Okay,
Okay? And so if you show up at the polling location and you give them their name, it's going to show up on their poll book that's going to say you've already received a ballot and therefore you cannot vote the normal means. If you insist that you want to vote, just like anything we have now with the provisional ballot process, you would be given a provisional ballot and have to fill that out.
but you'd be given provisional ballot to fill out, but you would still be voting twice.
Well, you would be
No,
given a
when-
provisional ballot. What we would do then is, any provisional ballot that we receive, we always go back and we check to see, you know, why they had to
Oh.
vote provisional.
Oh, okay.
And so then we would see that you were given a mail ballot, we would see that the mail ballot was received and returned, and then therefore our recommendation to the board would be to reject that ballot because you've already voted.
Okay,
Okay, when we do certification, we review all of those, so.
So the number of provisional ballots that we're going to receive is going to increase dramatically, just because of that process. People
Wow, okay.
not used to, I think once people get used to it, but once again, we're doing it in a presidential year, so
Yeah.
we'll probably have a lot.
so this is probably covered down with the identification used for everybody, but suppose somebody comes in and says, well, I need a ballot for myself and my husband and my sister-in-law.
We can only ever issue a ballot to the individual. So
Okay.
all we can ever do is give, let's say you come in
One.
for, let's say you and a husband or you and a friend, we would only be able to give you the application for that individual.
person,
They
okay.
would have to then, you could take that back and give it to them, but the only thing we could ever do is issue a ballot to you. That's always been
Okay.
the case.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And Michael, for clarification, if they come in here to vote, it's in advance of the election. It's not on the machines, it's only on paper.
Yes. Yes, everything will be done through the paper, and then they will be tabulated through the high-speed scanners that we purchase.
Dawn,
we-
do you still have a question?
Actually, she asked my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we have to determine at some point, and I'll recommend then this too, is when we're going to count those, based on the computation rules that we have in place right now with Act 77. And it's one of the things we're actually going to be discussing with Senator Arnold to help us with some of that, just because of the restrictions that they're giving us on being able to open those ballots and count them.
The time.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
There's
It is
nothing-
very interesting. It's been very busy early.
You
with
seem
this-
to
with the
thrive on
special
this,
election
though.
and-
Yeah.
So lots of stuff to do, but
Yeah.
we'll be prepared and we'll be ready.
Okay, like your confidence.
If there are no other questions, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
The board,
Thank you.
stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.